I'd like to call to order the Economic Development Authority of the City of Crystal on this Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. With that, can we do roll call?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Kamish.
Here.
Commissioner Kaiser.
Here.
Commissioner Otis Arosin.
Here.
Commissioner Adams.
Here.
Commissioner Budashevsky.
Here.
Commissioner Cummings.
Here.
Commissioner Idebo.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Our first item is to approve the minutes from our last meeting on February 20th. After you review that, if there's a motion to approve those minutes. Tracy,
I will make a motion to approve those.
is there a second? Therese?
I will second that.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Should I say, all those opposed, please say nay? Maybe I'll do it. Okay, all those opposed, no one says nay, okay. With that, the motion passes. Okay, next order of business. We're going to consider a resolution amending the subgrant agreement for a Hennepin County Brownfields grant at 3401 3417 Douglas Drive North.
All right. Well, I had a slideshow, but you probably don't need it. So this is the townhome development at 3401 Douglas that they actually got their building permit to build 8 units, and they're ready to go, except they want to use a different environmental consultant that is being paid for with a grant from the county that's being passed through the EDA. So what we need you to do tonight is to adopt the resolution authorizing the amendment to the subgrant agreement so they can select an environmental consultant that will basically be supervising the work. There are any number of environmental consultants out there. It was, I think, kind of an accident that the consultant that we had hired to look at the property was named in the agreement. There's really no reason to name them in the agreement because they're all certified by the state. They all have to report to the state. They're all regulated by the state. So, but the developer cannot break ground until they have their environmental consultant on board. So with that, we'd be seeking EDA approval, adoption of the resolution that would amend the subgrant agreement to make that happen.
Therese?
Is the grant large enough to cover the expenses of cleaning up that area? Wasn't it a gas station for a long time?
Yes, that is correct. I think the grant is around $200,000, but anything above and beyond that is the developer's responsibility.
Oh, okay. We're not on the hook for that.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Oh, here it is.
All right, do we have a motion to approve this? John? Jim?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution amending the subgrant agreement for Hennepin County Brownfields grant at 3401 to 3417 Douglas Drive North.
Do we have a second? John?
Jim? I second that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, we have a property status update. John?
All right, thank you, Mr. President. Going from north to south, I don't know if anyone's been by the former office building at 7057th, but New Horizon has fenced it off, and if you can see in the windows, they appear to have completely gutted the inside of that building. So the building permit value alone for that project, so that's not including plumbing, mechanical, and all that stuff, is $3.2 million. And they paid about 1.5 for the property. So they're putting some serious money into making that, I think, a first-class child care facility. So it's going to look great when it's done, and they're moving forward very quickly with that project. Wells Fargo is expecting to open in their new branch in the former half-price book space probably in June. Once they open, they will then, it'll be some kind of a transitional process, but they will vacate the current branch at 7056th Avenue on Bass Lake Road. And as we said before, we anticipate that that will be demolished and redeveloped for something else because there's not much of a market for bank buildings like that. So as soon as we know more, we will certainly communicate with you on that. And then across the street, sort of from there, the former Dairy Queen, Duncan has submitted their plans and building permit application to start work on, in fact, they've been issued the building permits to do some of the preliminary work on the property. And one of the interesting questions that we've had as far as their proposed use is how would they use all that square footage? If you recall, that Dairy Queen had kind of a big seating area that kind of was like an L-shaped area off to the kind of the southeast corner of the building. And they are going to carve that out as a, I presume, a rentable meeting room with its own bathroom. So they can cater events or host meetings in that room as a separate space from their general customer area, which will be smaller than the old Dairy Queen's customer seating area was. So I think that's kind of a good innovation, a good way to use what for a Dunkin' would have been excess square footage they didn't need. So we're looking forward to that. We don't know how fast they're going to move in that remodeling. We will certainly, again, let you know more as we know more.
Thanks, John. Any questions, Tracy?
The new Wells Fargo location, is that lobby only? There's not gonna be a drive-through there, is there?
Correct, yep, the only ATM will be in the lobby.
Okay. And parking, there's enough? I mean, I can't imagine there's gonna be that much, but that parking over there kind of seems limited to begin with, so.
Yeah, there's a whole separate parking lot kind of in the back, and that's where the employees can park. It's sort of behind the Nokomis Shoes parking lot. There's a wraparound parking lot kind of north and east of the Wells Fargo space. So my guess is that that's where they'll have their employees park, and then they save the spaces in the front for the customers. So again, it will be a actual bank branch. They'll have people in there working. I don't know if it'll be loan officers or tellers, or I assume some kind of mix of staffing. So they will have staff, but there is actually plenty of parking in that mall overall. It's just the spaces right in front of the storefronts do get filled up sometimes.
Forrest?
The old Wells Fargo space, that's just zoned commercial, right? That's not part of the town center, right?
So yes and no, it's own commercial, but
it
it's
can't
also
get
in the
a
PD,
use, yeah.
so the overlay district. So if someone wanted to tear that down and build an urban style apartment building, you know, closer to the street, parking in the back, that sort of thing, our ordinance would allow them to do that. They'd have to do a rezoning similar to what you did for the apartment building at 5240 West Broadway. Be the same process.
Okay,
It's very
so
similar zoning.
it'd be, okay, so they could do a planned, okay, cool,
And the size of the site is 2.2 acres.
pretty good.
So it's about, I don't know, 15% bigger than the 5240 apartment site is, just in terms of land area.
Do you think that area would be marketable as a mixed use or no?
So I think so. The challenge is there's no on-street parking on Bass Lake Road. So it might be horizontal mixed use where they carve out the Bass Lake Road frontage for a more traditional suburban style commercial building, and then have an apartment building behind it on 57th, right across from the New Horizon building. So you kind of have, just have to kind of fit the street infrastructure that's around it. But if somebody could make vertical mixed use work, we certainly would support that. I mean, from the staff's perspective, bottom line is that 2.2 acre property could have a lot more economic density, is my favorite phrase, right? On that 2.2 acres. Like it just, the bank branch doesn't use the land, and Wells Fargo saw that and is relocating to a space that better fits their needs. So we're excited to see what comes at that site, and we hope it'll be something impressive.
Thank you.
Therese?
Where the old Dairy Queen is and the Dunkin' Donuts is going in, isn't that across from Ambiance, right? That little cafe?
Yes,
Okay.
it's in the shopping center property, but it's basically Dunkin' is going to lease that space. It's not a separate parcel. They're leasing that from the shopping center, similar to what Ambiance does, except they have a freestanding building that they're leasing.
But Ambiance is also a coffee shop, right? Kind of bakery, coffee shop, somewhat?
You know, they're, and just, I should have announced this at a prior meeting, they recently have reopened for like regular business hours. For a while, they were just doing catering and special events. And I think it's more like full service restaurant or, takeout or whatever. I mean, it's actual food, not just I mean, donuts are food, okay, but
We
it's
get
a,
it, we
it's
get
a
it,
more
yeah.
varied menu.
Yeah.
And I don't think coffee is kind of their focus. I think that food is really their focus and ambiance. It's a very, I would say it's a very different clientele market. You know, people looking for a different kind of experience than, say, going to a Dunkin'.
Okay, thank you.
David?
I was just gonna add, I was just at Ambiance Cafe last week, and they have expanded hours as well. I think they're open till like 6. And then they had, the menu had, a bunch of food items. I think there was like a Philly cheesesteak, and there was other stuff on there, so they definitely had a lot of food items and expanded hours, so it seems like, they're not just open, from a limited time. So there's looked like some good stuff to eat on the menu.
Do they have breakfast or just lunch?
When I looked at the menu, it just had like lunch and kind of dinner options, so I'm not sure.
Tracy, you'll have to go tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, report back.
Yeah.
Report back.
I've tried to go there a couple times, it was always closed, so.
I will do.
Other questions
You
for
have-
John? Jim?
Can you give them a call, see if they want to come in for open forum or something? Just reintroduce themselves?
Yeah, in fact, I was in there, it wasn't Taisha, it was her husband, and I forget his name, but I talked to him. I didn't mention that, I was just, they're excited to be reopened for
Yeah.
regular business hours. I'll certainly invite them, I'm not sure
It doesn't matter. The invitation would be fantastic. I think they
if
would.
they could show up at open forum, and it's a way for them to let the public know that they're back, sort of, because they did have to kind of shut down and do catering and special event only for a while.
Yeah,
So
cool.
that's a good idea, I will certainly bring that up to them.
John?
The Wine Thief and Ale Jail promotion on our Facebook page was really great, so maybe something like that for Ambiance as well. Since they're now kind of like going to be,
Well, yes, and that's a good idea, and we could do we did a post.
yeah,
So we can, I think there's a way for Mike to
Repost.
repost stuff, to refresh posts or whatever, and say, remember this place? Well,
yeah.
check them out, that kind of thing. So we'll talk internally about how to do that in a way that doesn't violate any of our
Yes.
social media policies.
Very good.
Any other questions for John? All right, any other business? Okay, with that, is there a motion to adjourn? John, is
So moved.
there a second?
I'll second that.
Therese, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.